I'm from a small town. I mean small. Nothing much happened other than take your tractor to work day. I was a high school senior in a class of 42 people. We had all known each other since diapers. I could give you the first, middle, and last name of every kid in my class. The biggest thing to happen to our town was the day we got Starbucks. The only reason we got one was that we were right off the highway and people passing through would make up for our small population size. Needless to say, we were thrilled. It was a small cafe with nothing much of an inside, but at least it had a drive-thru. The building itself was stacked right next to a strip mall, so it had a tiny parking lot. The actual drive-thru was pinned against a brick wall. Once you were in line, you had no choice but to keep going. This was especially annoying when the people in front of you had long orders. The line could fit about 6 cars back to back, and it was always full. Let me just say, the Starbucks didn't last long. 8 months after it opened, it was shut down. I got to see the reason why firsthand. It was spring break. My mom and I were heading to the mall, which was almost an hour away. It was hot. I was the one who suggested we stop at the Starbucks before heading out. My mom didn't want to. She said it was a waste of money, but I nagged her until she agreed. We pulled up to the drive-thru and there were 4 cars ahead of us. My mom sighed, but got in line. 3 more cars pulled in back of us. We were all stuck like peas in a pod, sweating with the heat of the day. I want something cold, I whined to my mom. She rolled her eyes. Strawberries and cream? Yes, please. I pulled out my phone and Snapchatted some friends. Getting fraps with my mom, I typed as I snapped a pic of us. My mom laughed and pushed the phone away. Suddenly a loud pop filled the air. We looked at each other in surprise. It sounded like a gunshot, I said softly. No way, she responded, shrugging it off. It was probably just a car backfiring. We sat in silence for the next few moments. I think we both sensed something change. Then the scream came. It was a man's. Instinctively, I stuck my head out the window to see what was going on. Because of how packed in we were against the buildings, we couldn't actually open our doors. But I was small enough that I could get half my body out the window to view the scene. There was a figure standing on the hood of a car. It was about 4 cars ahead of us. He wore a gorilla mask. In his hands was a gun. He pointed it down towards the windshield. Someone inside the car was screaming, begging for help. My mother pulled me in the car right before enough pop filled the silence. The windshield shattered, and it lit up the alley in fear. We need to get out of here, my mom said under her breath. She looked around wildly, knowing that we were blocked in. The cars behind us weren't moving, and obviously neither were the cars in front. None of us could open our doors. What the fuck? I whimpered. It's going to be okay. My mom put the car in reverse and slammed on the gas. Because we weren't moving, we couldn't get enough speed. She struck the car behind her, which faltered but didn't move. My mom's panic was getting worse. She tried going forward, but the same thing happened. We could see the people in the other cars panicking as well. The woman in front of us was banging her door against the brick of the building, trying desperately to climb through. She managed to edge halfway out, but got stuck. The man in the mask calmly climbed over the car he had just shot into and moved on to the next one. I watched in horror as he tapped on their windshield. There was a couple in the front seat. I could see them holding each other in dismay. Roll down your window, the masked man said loudly. The seconds ticked by. People in the cars around us were screaming. My mom and I were quiet. Roll it down, now! The driver's side window slowly rolled down. We could hear a man's voice from inside. Please, we have kids in the car. Don't hurt us. We are good people, please. The masked man leaned over towards the open window and shot the couple 2 times. Blood erupted from the car. Their windows were painted red. Now we could hear the cries of children. My mom grabbed my hand. She swallowed slowly. Get down, she said. What? I couldn't comprehend what was happening. Get down, as far under the seat as possible. He may not see you. But, Mom! My words were interrupted by a chorus of gunshots. The kids' cries ceased. Without another word, I folded myself into the space under the dashboard. I got as small as possible. My mom angled her purse next to me, nearly covering the spot I was in. She was breathing hard. A woman's voice was piercing the alleyway. Why? Why are you doing this? I realized it must be the woman trying to get out of her car door. She got stuck between her car and the wall. I shut my eyes, trying not to picture her hanging there, just waiting to be shot down. Even my mom looked away as the shot rang out, blood sprayed. My mom braced herself against the steering wheel. She looked ahead as if entranced. I sobbed quietly. I could feel the man jump into her car hood. His footsteps were loud right above us. I glanced towards my mother. She didn't dare look at me. The gorilla mask hung down over the open window of my mom's side. The gun was pointed at her temple. I couldn't see his real face, but I got the feeling he was smiling. My mom suddenly reached out and grabbed the gun. I nearly knocked my head against the dashboard in surprise. The man must have been surprised too, because the gun came easily out of his grip. She aimed upward and pulled the trigger. She shot him as many times as she could before the bullets ran out. Blood was dripping down the windshield and all over her clothes. The mask was covered in holes. She kept pulling the trigger even though nothing came out. I breathed out a huge sigh. I couldn't believe she just did that. My mom, a small town housewife, just killed a murderer. But before I could crawl out, another pop sounded. It came from my side of the car. I watched in horror as my mother's head exploded out of the back of her skull. She fell forward onto the steering wheel, her nose on the horn. I slowly turned my head to my side of the car, where someone wearing a Barbie mask was peering down. She cocked her head to the side, surveying her work. She must not have seen me because she disappeared. I felt her step off our car into someone else's. I tried to breathe, but nothing came out. I stayed under my seat for nearly an hour. The police arrived within 20 minutes of the first shot, but I couldn't get myself to move. They only found me after using the jaws of life to open up the top of our car to pull out my mom. When the officer saw me, her face crumpled. She could see the fear still etched onto my face. I was the only survivor from that drive-thru. Altogether, 13 people were shot to death, including 3 kids under the age of 10. The man in the gorilla mask was later identified as a radical eco-terrorist. They planned this event to protest Starbucks' impact on the environment. Despite their intent, no one who worked at Starbucks was injured. It was just those of us in line. They never found the other person. My mom died bravely, and I still cling to that. Never in my life would I have expected her to grab a gun from a crazed killer. She did it for me, to save me. There is one thing that still eats me up inside. Because despite their horrible actions, all of the death and destruction those murderers caused, the event actually worked. At least for me. I know I will never go to a Starbucks again.